Gaza is a sliver of land where hospitals have become frontline targets.
Absolutely massive strike on EGH hospital.
And operating theatres are on the battlefield.
Everyone is a target, everyone is fair game. Doctors, children.
In this film, 2 British surgeons recorded their first-hand experiences over a 3-week period.
The emaciated bodies lying on the operating table.
Dr. Tom Potokar, a burns and reconstructive specialist.
This was so barbaric.
And Dr. Victoria Rose, a plastic surgeon, are both driven by one motive.
This is the little 10-year-old boy whose ankle got blown off.
Saving lives. What they witnessed demands to be shown.
And she's had a liver injury, so shrapnel here.
It's the total inhumanity and the cruelty.
It's absolute carnage here. This guy's been brought in for malnutrition.
The sound of rockets and shelling, this is the daily life in Gaza.
Tom Potokar is a war zone veteran. He's the former chief surgeon of the International Red Cross and seen the worst in the world's bloodiest conflict areas. He's been travelling to Gaza for the past 7 years. But this visit's about to turn into one unmatched before in intensity and violence. Within days of arriving, 2 of Gaza's main hospitals are hit, including the European where he's working. The Israeli forces will later confirm they dropped 50 bombs in this operation. The Israeli attacks are unleashed without warning. The strikes are against 2 of the last functioning hospitals in Gaza. A security camera in front of the emergency entrance of the European hospital shows the moments before. Note the man in the checked shirt on the left. Top right, you can see the first of the bombs dropping. Before anyone can escape, a barrage of others follow. The Israeli forces will justify this by saying they're targeting Hamas tunnels beneath. Hospitals have protected status in war, and attacking them is a war crime. You can see the man in the checked shirt emerging from all the dust and debris. And Dr. Tom Potokar is on the scene within minutes and begins documenting what he sees.
Absolutely massive strike on EGH hospital. It's right in front of the emergency room. People lying on the ground, shrapnel everywhere, devastation right in the forecourt of the hospital. Absolutely terrible. This is the corridor going down to the main theatres. I've got to find our sisters. I see you. Absolute mayhem. It's a direct hit on the hospital. Corridor absolutely full of smoke. It's going up towards the accident emergency unit.
His footage clearly shows a huge number of patients and staff in the hospital.
And chaos at the moment.
The IDF drops multiple bombs on the European hospital that day, with at least 12 craters visible around the area. When Dr. Tom and team first arrive in Gaza at the start of May, these are the only major hospitals still in operation. By the time they all leave at the end of the month, almost a third will have been taken out of action. There ends up being more than 30 attacks on medical facilities while the doctors are there, as well as on at least 5 hospitals. Those put out of action include Al Auda, which has been operating as the main medical facility in the north at this point. And there's the bulldozing of the only dialysis clinic, again in the north. With the European out of action, Nasser is now the most functional hospital left for the whole population. Dr. Victoria Rose and her colleagues arrive in Gaza on the day this is all unfolding.
We've just got to Gaza. We've entered through a different entry point today.
They're meant to go to the European hospital, but hearing of the bombing there, instead head to Nasser to wait for the casualties. The London-based NHS surgeon is on her 3rd visit to Gaza. She's already realising her duties are twofold, saving lives, but also bearing witness. Foreign journalists are barred from entering. Many of those inside are being killed. She knows international doctors can be the voice of Gazans, and she's determined to do that. Before dawn same morning, Nasser's also been hit. The strike kills an injured journalist, who Israeli forces say is a Hamas operative involved in October 7 attacks, which he always denied. The hospital bombings follow a pattern of attacks on Gaza's health services, those working in them and reporting about them.
These attacks terrorize the people, as well as the staff who work here, who tell us that they are terrified that if they continue to keep coming to work, they will be next.
The newly injured from the European hospital bombings start arriving at Nasser, where Dr. Victoria and her team are. It's already heavily overstretched, but now more important than ever. The grief here never stops.
And his tibias, which are the shin bones, and he's lost a huge amount of skin.
Dr. Victoria finds her operations list immediately full of mainly young patients, many now on their own or with few surviving relatives.
And she's had a liver injury, so shrapnel here into the liver. This is Yakub, who had a blast injury. I think we spoke about him before. So a bomb went off and it's basically blown his right ankle off.
She begins a daily video blog and shares her experiences, her patients and their injuries with us and on social media.
This is from an explosion burn.
Yeah.
I think I felt at times that this was so barbaric, what was going on, in terms of the numbers of children coming through the doors with bits of their bodies blown off, that it just had to be displayed. I felt a real duty to show what I've seen and say, look, I'm seeing what they've told you they're seeing. If this is actually really happening, you've got to look at this now.
Back at the European, Dr. Tom is witnessing the frantic moving out of all patients that they can. Weeks later, the Israelis will say they found the body of the latest Hamas leader beneath the hospital, but his name is not among the 30-plus killed at this stage. The attack embodies the disputing versions of what's happening in Gaza. Israelis will again claim this proves Hamas hides behind civilians, whilst the Palestinians say it demonstrates the military's disregard for civilian safety. Right now, though, Dr. Tom sees it as a fight for survival and saving lives.
We're standing outside the operating theatre. You can see the damage behind me. It's not even possible to take any cases to theatre. It is too dangerous. The theatres are being damaged and the staff, unsurprisingly, have left at the moment to try and seek some safety.
The next day, it's evident the damage is wide and extensive. But Dr. Tom and his Palestinian colleagues are still holding out hope of getting the hospital back up and running. And they're doing what they can to shift the rubble.
Busy clearing up the mess from last night's attack. Outside theatre, Here you can see the maintenance team are trying to get things back in order so we can start operating again.
There are still patients in ICU, and then there are fresh attacks.
This is where the strike was. You can see the digger underneath. They were trying to clear the rubble that's been hit.
Israel's fresh military offensive is in full attack mode by now. It's called Operation Gideon's Chariots. And the IDF says in just 1 week, they've hit nearly 700 Hamas targets across Gaza. Most of the European hospital patients have been stretchered out by now. But a few medics opt to stay until all can be taken to safety.
The rest of the hospital is now evacuated and, to all intents and purposes, abandoned for the moment. So this is the last remaining area of clinical activity, and the emergency medical teams are coming to take the patients away. There's still another 5 to go, so we're hoping that they'll be able to find places and come and pick these patients up before too long.
And we intend to remain here until the last patient left the unit, and we hope for the best for all of us who are in this difficult time at the European hospital in Gaza.
If you really want to see the real heroes of humanity, these guys here, these are the paramedics, the ambulance drivers, the doctors and nurses who've stayed behind to look after these few patients, understanding the risks that they're taking, that they still do their job with dignity, with respect, with humility. These are true humanitarian human beings. We've just left the European Gaza hospital. Milena and myself are now on our way back to the guest house and see what we can do, where we'll go after this, but very grateful to Norway and the UN for coming to get us out.
Unfortunately, the hospital where we were deployed is off the border. There is no electricity and no water. It will be probably repaired within 2 weeks. We are looking for another appropriate place to continue our mission.
The complete Israeli blockade on aid is biting hard. Hunger is hitting the youngest most harshly. The impact of this siege is keenly felt at Nasser Hospital, where Dr. Tom and Dr. Victoria and their teams are both now working.
They just brought me to the paediatric centre to have a look at some of the children. This guy's been brought in for malnutrition. So is this little guy. Really shocking. So that's what she used to look like.
Mariam needs special formula held up by the blockade.
So from that, now to this.
The little girl's deterioration is painful and slow. But there's very little anyone can do. She dies waiting for the aid which never comes. And there are so many others still wanting, still suffering. Even a search for food can be deadly.
There's the sound of rockets and shelling been going on all day. Terrible news coming out from the north of the country. Our driver today was on the phone to his son-in-law in Gaza City, pleading with him not to go out as it was too dangerous, but he was starving. He went out looking for food. He was killed. This is the daily life in Gaza.
Quite a productive day here, probably because we've got Tom back.
They're doing at least 10 surgeries a day, and the bulk are children.
This is the little 10-year-old boy whose ankle got blown off. Graham shortened the bone And Tiz and I have just put this piece of skin that we've taken from his thigh onto it to cover the hole. So hopefully job done, sorted. This is the third little guy that I've done today. He's got a blast injury to his legs. So the right one we've had to shorten because he's lost some bone, and the left one he's got a huge hole in. So he's number 3. The little guy behind him, he's a 35-40% burn. He was number 2, and my first little girl, she was under a year old, and she had a burn to her hand. Alex is not very happy.
And those they do patch up face incredible challenges.
Obviously, I see malnutrition differently in the trauma patients because it comes across in terms of poor healing, not having the essential nutrients and vitamins that you need means that cell turnover is not as good as it should be, and your capacity to heal wounds is pretty poor.
2 weeks into their trip, and we sense the doctor's frustration is turning to anger.
It's the screams of children when they're waking up from an anaesthetic, for example. It's the sight of a child coming, or one we've got to go and operate on shortly and have been operating on every day for the last few days, who is 7 years old and is limbless from, the top of the thighs on both sides. And she's 7 years old, and that you never get used to. And it is just, it's the total inhumanity and the cruelty of it.
I just have to show you this little guy. This is my favourite little guy. He has a 35% burn, and it's a massive burn for a little guy like this. He's so adorable. His eyelids are burnt, his hands are burnt, even his feet are burnt. This is just really completely unnecessary.
The toddler is Hartem, and his family photo album shows him as a happy, healthy boy before the bombing. His father was a teacher, but was killed alongside his pregnant mother. Now Hartem is the family's sole survivor. His life is hanging on a thread, and Dr. Victoria is monitoring every step.
Unfortunately, he hasn't been too well recently. He's developed some bleeding from his intestines, which we've noticed in his stools, and this isn't uncommon from a big burn. It's a stress ulcer, but it's not something that we normally see in somebody of his age. We're trying to support him as much as we can. He's had quite a lot of blood transfusion, and he's got a tube in his nose now to try and get some nutrients and vitamins in him. But unfortunately, we've had to delay his surgery until he's a little bit fitter. So we're keeping everything crossed. He's holding his own at the moment.
His guardian now, and the man who's hardly left his hospital bed, is his grandfather, who's working with a British charity to get Hartem airlifted to safety. But despite constant appeals, so far no visas have been granted. In more than 20 months, the UK's taken fewer than a handful of the injured from Gaza, just 2 children.
What did children do wrong to suffer such injuries, to be burned and bombed? We ask God to grant them healing.
Evening bombing.
Their video blogs are showing the attacks becoming more intense. And constant Israeli drones are scouting for the next target, delivering another level of terror. They call it the Gaza lullaby, the constant sounds of anarchy and terror. Dr. Victoria and her colleague Dr. Graham Groom fall into a pattern of nightly updates. In calls from Gaza, the teams tell us what's happening on the ground.
Where everyone is a target, everyone is fair game. It is the entire population that's being hit, be that doctors, children, teachers. It is just indiscriminate who's going. But I think the actual destruction of the structures is very, it seems to be very planned or calculated, the way in which the hospitals are being rendered functionless.
They know right now they're the Palestinians' best hope as witnesses.
If there's nothing to hide, well, why aren't international journalists allowed in? If there's nothing to hide, why have so many Palestinian journalists been slaughtered? You know, people should perhaps be asking that question.
It's been non-stop.
I've seen about 12 to 15 patients on the ward.
The doctors' video blogs are gaining a lot of traction on social media platforms.
We need the aid.
And they're creating a lot of noise.
Tell me about the situation where you are.
Well, Dr. Rose joins me now from Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis.
Dr. Patoka, thank you so much for joining us.
Die britische Chirurgin Victoria Rose operiert in einem Krankenhaus in Khan Yunis.
It's the worst I've ever seen it in Gaza.
What do you want people to hear from you?
Frankly, I want to stop having to give these interviews. It really has reached the point of utter inhumanity.
The bombing of hospitals and medics goes on, even as Israel seems to bow to US pressure and says it will allow some aid in. But this attack on a doctor's family home really rocks the teams working at Nasser Hospital. The bundles being carried out are the charred remains of 9 of the doctor's children. Their parents are both medics, both based at Nasser. Their mother, Dr. Allah, only escapes because she was at the hospital working. Their father's critically wounded. Just one child, Adam, survives, but may need his arm amputated, and he's taken to intensive care. He'll need much surgery ahead. He's in ICU with his father, but his father never recovers. Being a health worker in Gaza is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world right now, and all here know it.
It's quite late. I think it's nearly midnight now, and it's been another really busy day of operating.
Yes, it has, and also a sad day. The last patient on my list today was an 11-year-old boy who seemed much younger as we lifted him onto the operating table. His injuries were bad enough, but the background, I think, was worse. In an attack that may have or not have been aimed at his father was very badly injured, but 9 of his brothers and sisters were killed.
Childhoods are snuffed out in an instant. A little girl picks her way out through the fire of an Israeli airstrike, alone. More than half of those killed here turn out to be children. The toddler is called Hanin. Her courage has saved her life. But she is suffering and now an orphan. Her uncle is all that remains of her family.
We appeal to the world, to anyone with a conscience. How much longer will you remain silent? Imagine this was your daughter, your sister. This is injustice. Where is the world? What have we done to deserve this?
18 children formed the bulk of the dead in this single attack. Later we find out the journalist who filmed the fire is himself killed in an Israeli strike, as well as one of the civil defense workers taking part in the rescue. The attacks, with the high child casualties, leaves the travelling doctors increasingly emotional as the end of their trip looms.
I can no longer just stand here and tell you what is happening on the ground. The emaciated bodies lying on the operating table, huge chunks of flesh missing. I want to talk to you about the political class that are complicit in this ongoing slaughter and starvation. They appear on the news shows, give interviews and try to justify what is happening. They have no idea how dangerous their words are. They have never been here. They have never seen with their own eyes what is going on. Heard the screams, smelt the rotting flesh, shuddered from the constant bombardment.
A controversial new Israeli aid distribution system leads to chaos. There's mass panic and multiple claims over multiple days that the Israeli forces are shooting at hungry Palestinians. The doctors deal with the aftermath.
Well, these are all gunshot wounds, and as you can see behind me, we've got all the bays are full, and they're all gunshot wounds. It's absolute carnage here, and there are even more people in the main emergency department. If you come through.
This huge emergency coincides with the doctor's departure.
We are in a very short period of time where we could make a difference here and stop the war. And if we don't, I don't think there will be anything to come back to.
To be honest, I'm angry. I'm angry at what is happening here and the fact that it's still happening and the fact that still the reaction is negligible in terms of action.
They make their way through the rubble that was once Gaza with a UN escort and hear of more hospitals being hit, more casualties for their colleagues left behind to cope with.
This is possibly my last message from Gaza, which is very sad, really, because I'm a bit worried about everybody that we've left that needs further plastic surgery.
Within days of their leaving, there'll be more Israeli attacks against ambulance crews, medics and hospitals. The Israeli bombardment during the doctor's visit has altered and already changed Gaza, almost certainly forever. It's probably changed the travelling doctors too, who tried their hardest to save lives, but also highlight what's been happening.